This is Jimmy McDonough, and I was in that band.
Hey, Jimmy. I'm Grady
Hey,
Sandlin. I'm glad you're here, man.
me too.
Oh, how was the book tour?
I have to say, Grady, it was incredible. I've written a lot of books. I've written some books. None of them have gotten the reaction this has. It's just like a visceral, emotional thing, and it's been extremely gratifying.
You look like I've been following you, and you seem like everyone's really celebrating you, and then everyone's really loving Gary. I have to say, from a Gary Stewart fan, thank you. You did a beautiful thing. This is a great book.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. Gary was very special to me, and I've said it before, but I really owe my writing career to him because, he let me in his trailer and let me run amok, and I don't know why exactly, but he did. And I always, in my mind, wanted to get back to the book. This was in 1987. And, I guess I'm a little slow on the uptake. But it all worked out because I learned a lot more and I had time to think about it. And it became the book that it is. And I couldn't be happier that it's out in the world.
Man, I love music biographies and memoirs and oral histories, and I read a lot of them. And sometimes the scope, family history and stuff, I can skip it and go, man, when's it get good? And Gary's family is fascinating, and the stories that his professional career is its own wild ride. But I mean, the characters you introduce in this story, some who you've been spending some time with lately, but are just fascinating people. And you kind of become a part of it, a part of the crew too, which is great. And that's, I know, a part of your new unique approach to this whole thing. You kind of jumped in the deep end to get that first profile written in '87, but then you just don't quit, right? You kind of stay a part of the crew and stay in touch, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I just loved the guy, and Mary Lou, his wife, who's obviously a big part of this book, I think it was the second visit down there. She just said, "You're writing this book." And Mary Lou, you didn't screw around, Mary Lou. I just said, "Yes, ma'am." And I mean, I knew it too. It was just one of those things, Grady. It was like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be a book." And then, there were many turns to the story. I just had to step back. And plus, Grady, I'll tell you, I did that profile for The Voice, and that really rung a bell with people. I mean, that really gave me an entree into doing the things I do. And people will come up to me and say, "Oh, that Gary profile, man, I love that, yada, yada, yada." And it kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies because I didn't want to degrade what I'd already done. You know what I mean? So I really had to think about it. How am I going to attack this in an original fashion? And that took a long, long time to figure out. But I must say it was adding the oral history of the Stewarts that really made the whole thing click for me. I really love this family. I love the people in it. And I love the way they talked about things that had happened. And I wanted to stay out of their way. What do I know? I didn't want to come off as judge or jury, certainly. So I just wanted them to let it rip, and they certainly do. And that really opened up the way I could make this a book.
Yeah, trust isn't given, it's earned. And they obviously trust you, and your love for Gary and everybody is evident in the book. And but in that same way, you don't come off as, it's obvious that you love him and you love his music, but you're not pulling any punches. I mean, and that to me, that's how your family treats you, Uh everyone knows everything about you and isn't afraid to say it. And I think that's how it comes off. That's why I said I feel like you're kind of why you kind of belong with these people. And yeah, your love for everybody involved really shines through. I think you did them proud, and Shannon's endorsement is must mean everything.
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you a funny story about that. She was the first one to get the book, obviously, and she said, "Well, Jimmy, I got to tell you, this is the first whole book I've ever read." And then, she started reading it, and she'd have questions. There was a lot of stuff she didn't know. That was hair raising enough. I mean, I spent 38 years on this book, and now the person I care about the most in this fashion is reading it.
Yeah.
So a lot of sleepless nights, but then about a week, 10 days later, she called me and she said, "Well, Jimmy, I just want you to know I read the book and I love you anyway." And I thought that was like the greatest review I've ever gotten, the greatest review I will ever get. Shannon's incredible, and obviously she's a big part of the book. And her energy really, she's she's the one remaining member of that family. And I can't say enough great things about her. I've said it before. If you took the best parts of Gary and the best parts of Mary Lou and fused them into one dame, it would be Shannon. And she's just been down for the whole thing, like in ways other people I've written about haven't necessarily been, let's say.
Yeah.
So I just admire her courage, her fortitude, and the fact that she won't rest until she feels like her dad has gotten his due. So all that is very very moving to me.
I mean, that's as close as you're going to get to an endorsement from Gary and Mary Lou.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And yeah, she sounds like she's kind of got a bit of her mother in that, the love for and belief in Gary.
Oh, and, yeah.
She kind of sounds like somebody you also don't want to mess around with.
Oh yeah, she's the real deal, man. I am president of the Shannon Ashburn fan club. That's for certain.
In the interim, you've done a lot. I came aware of you because of Shaky.
Yeah, right.
And I wasn't a huge Neil Young fan. I was just discovering Neil Young at the time. Neil, just by his own creation and his own muse, I think, is just a tough nut to crack anyway.
Yeah.
And you set about to try and do that. And I know it got ugly, but again, I mean, that's a fantastic book. I mean, that when you talk to Neil Young fans, and I know some hardcores, and you go, "Have you read Shaky?" And you're like, "Of course," and I've seen it. I've seen copies that just live in the band van, and it's anyone gets bored, they're gonna start digging around in that thing. Again, and there are so many great characters. Neil surrounded himself with some really fantastic people.
Oh yeah,
that came about because you had this reputation from your writing about Gary and for the voice, right?
Well, it really came about because there was a friend of mine named Bill Bentley who worked, he was a big honcho at publicity at Reprise Records.
Okay.
And he'd read a few of my profiles. I did another one on this great jazz vocalist Jimmy Scott, and that moved him so much he started putting the wheels in motion to getting Jimmy a record deal. So we'd had some adventures, and he was very admiring of my writing, which I appreciated. And he said, "Who do you want to write about on the label? Anybody. You name them. I'll get them for you." I said, "Well, there's one guy, but you're not going to want to hear his name." And he said, "Come on, who?" I said, "Well, Neil Young." Long pause. But hats off to Bentley, because about 9 months after that, I was in a motel near Neil's Kingdom, waiting for him to pick me up in a '59 Cadillac Eldorado Biarritz. And just about the first thing I said to him was, "You know, Neil, I love your music, but for the past 10 years, your records have sucked." Now, you might say, "Boy, you're a jerk." And that would be true. But, I didn't know it at the time, but as Elliot, his manager, would say, Neil surrounds himself with no men. Not yes men, but no men. So I was just the new no man on the block, and he got a big kick out of me provoking him. And that led to a very intense interview that had to do with his family and his son, Ben. He really unloaded a lot of stuff that he never talked about. And to be honest, Grady, I thought, well, that's it. I won't see this guy again. Great interview. And it was some months after that, he called me and said, "Jimmy, yeah, it's Neil. Yeah, I want you to write the liner notes for my box set. I'm doing this archives project. All you have to do, only requirement, you got to have an old typewriter with a few keys that don't work." I said, "Neil, I already have one. No problem."
You're in luck.
Yeah. But it was really apparent to both of us. He probably wouldn't admit it now, cagey guy he is. A book was at the heart of it. And I was working in the film business at the time for people like Sidney Lumet and Brian De Palma. And I fled to LA because he basically said, "Yeah, go talk to everybody. You have carte blanche." Well, that's one thing. Dealing with the minions around Neil who control the business is something out of a David Lynch film. But for the next, I don't know, year and a half, I just, without any book deal, I just proceeded to interview everybody. It was just like, once I decided to do something, it's like, try and stop me. And I don't say that as a brag, Grady. I say that maybe as a character defect, because Sure. It's like I'm just like a heat-seeking missile, right?
Yeah.
And I remember going to interview David Crosby. I was so broke. He gave me a box set and some CDs. I had to pawn all those because the next day I was going to interview David Briggs, Neil's producer. So, everything with Shaky was fraught with anxiety. But, that's all my books. So, that just happened to be maybe, well, I don't know. But it was, it was something else, that deal. But in the end, the book came out. The way I wrote it, I was just talking about this the other day. I wanted to do another polish on the text. There are some things that really pain me in that book. Excuse me. But we'd gotten to the settlement point. Lawyers had descended on it. And the publisher said, "Jimmy, if you change another word, we will send you to Siberia. Forget it, pal."
Yeah.
And it always kind of bugged me. But looking back, it has a certain kind of crazy horse looseness, maybe unintelligent, maybe not. But it fits the book, and so be it.
That's what everybody says about Neil anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So, yeah,
No, that was it.
It escaped, so I'm happy.
Man, that's great. I mean, And again, you mentioned Briggs, and that's a thing that I see through your work. You always seem to zero in on the producer who it kind of is an artist translator for better or worse. I think their their best work, and that can be a tenuous relationship for everyone involved. So and Briggs passed away during the process of the book, right?
Yeah,
His
yeah.
his advice to I can't remember who he was talking to, but the tape operator on the record with fucking up. But just being like, hey,
Ragged Glory, yeah.
Ragged Glory.
Yeah.
Keep the tape rolling. Any snippet you miss, Neil will say that's his favorite take, and you've completely ruined his day. And I mean, that's just a guy who totally gets Neil, and that sound on that he gets on Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. That's like the genesis point for Neil. That is like, he had done plenty of stuff before then. I think he was always searching for what David was able to provide him with. And and they had a good relationship, and it lasted longer than most producer artist relationships do.
He was incredible. I wish you could have met him. I mean, he was, even in the world of rock stars, David was a rock star. The dude was just incredible. I could talk, days about Briggs. He was a great inspiration to me. And there was a Warholian thing, I think, with Neil, where he really fed off, well, hopefully still does, the people around him. And I'm talking David Briggs, I'm talking Danny Whitten, I'm talking Pancho Sampedro, to a lesser extent, Jack Nitzsche.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's at his best when he has these forces of nature around him that are much more unwieldy and uncontrollable than himself. Anyway, that's my theory. And Briggs was the king of that. He understood rock and roll. And that you didn't need 48 tracks in the London Philharmonic to create it. And he brought the best out of you. You know what I mean? He did with me. He coached me writing the book. He just was. If he didn't like you, forget it. He'd demolish you, or you wouldn't exist, or whatever. But if he liked you, he was in your corner, like Customato. I mean, he was going to produce you, whether you knew it or not. And we're all grateful for Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, plenty of other characters. I think all the Crazy Horse guys, and I know I guess maybe Pancho's not in the band anymore, but
no.
Still around and still active, doing his own things. And that steel player,
Ben Keith.
I mean, he seems like another amazing character, and someone that Neil always put a lot of trust into.
Yeah. What a musician, man.
When we're talking about, like, I like bootlegs, and I know.
Okay.
When you first announced this, the Gary book and website, man, I spent so many late nights digging through those recordings on there. On NWR, those things, and trying to figure out how to right click and save some of these things, which I never figured out. I just was like, okay, well, I'll just go here to listen to them. But
right,
I take it you kind of have a love for the bootleg as well. In my mind, records are like the main plot, and bootlegs are like the subplot.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah.
and sometimes the subplot is more interesting than the
Oh
main.
yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And it was my knowledge of that stuff. Here's the deal, I just want to hear, if I'm into an artist, I want to hear everything, okay? That I can.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, if you're really obsessive, like say you or I, you deduce that, oh yeah, he or she never really nailed this in the studio. But in Oklahoma City that night, holy man, listen to this.
Yeah.
And that was certainly true of Neil. And as I mentioned, I gave him grief over his records. I felt I could do that because I'd listened to all these live tapes of great music he was playing on the road and that wasn't getting captured in the studio. And he immediately related to that. And same with Gary. Gary really loved music, Grady. You being a musician, you probably know musicians who would rather play than find bootlegs. It's like, I'm doing it. Leon Russell was famous for never listening to music. He said, I make it all the time. I don't need to hear any other music.
Yeah.
Gary, though, was a record hound. He loved vinyl. He had a bazillion records in his home. He was always till the end, always trying to score new records that he didn't have. And that's where we bonded when I first talked to him over music that we had similar tastes to some degree. And so he was aware that I knew I'd heard live tapes of his stuff, and I knew about the Drugstore Cowboys. And for a guy like me, for the way I do things, it's very useful. You want to paint the whole picture. You know what I mean? And in this Gary Stewart book, for the casual reader, I know I get way too much into like unreleased recordings. And there was a time a few weeks ago I thought, maybe that should have been in an appendix, by itself, so the nerds could go there and not sully the casual reader. But this book is so extreme on every level. I just thought, no, better I went for broke and I just did it the way I did it, and that's that. But a long-winded answer to your question, yeah, all that stuff to me, very important and fascinating. And nowadays, it used to be you had to know somebody or you had to find the secret source. And all that was like this Inspector Clouseau game that was highly passionate and romantic. Now any putz can go on YouTube and press a button and they're an expert. To us real music snobs, that's a little bit of an effrontery. It is. But funny nonetheless, because obviously there's things that I always wanted to hear. Now I've heard them. But the mystery is sort of gone out of the game, as it were. You know what I mean?
I do. So, I know exactly what you mean. And it's good and bad. I do love it. There are records that I spent so much time sifting through racks and asking clerks about, and them going, no, I never see that. No, that's, you're not going to get that. You're not going to find that. And I've traveled around this country digging through records and asking weird questions and searching for that unfindable thing, and now it's at my fingertips 24/7.
Yeah, it's a trip, ain't it?
It really is, and it's amazing. It's an amazing time to be alive and be able to find these things anywhere you want. And now I'm just going, I have to make time to listen to them all.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Around COVID during lockdown, I go, I'm going to listen to a record. I'm going to listen to a bootleg. I'm going to read a chapter of a book. And just
right.
Get educated, while I can.
Right.
And yeah, those Stewart recordings, I think you just have a bit of a sense of this one really kind of got the essence of something. Is that Is that always what you're after?
Well, I don't know. I like hearing it all, and it all has its merits. But for me, I remember being in that trailer, and he was zonked out of his mind in the bedroom. Days had gone by. I was really crawling the walls. And Grady, I wasn't a trained journalist or anything. I just made it up as I went along. And I was just thinking, wow, do all celebrities do this? Do I just wait them out? Which I did. But in the meantime, I saw a box or a couple of boxes of tapes that were obviously recording tapes. And I started playing them. And the revelation for me was at the very end, there was a tape that was labeled Lenny D. And it was 4 a.m. I didn't know what else to do. I thought, well, I'll just listen to this. And it was this incredible version of, Williamson County Highway that was on Gary's first album, and it's a murder ballad. It's already kind of a unsettling song, but it's given sort of a jaunty Nashville treatment on that album.
Yeah.
This was something else entirely. Howling electric guitar played by Gary, almost screaming vocal. It just blew the back of my head off. And Gary wandered out at that moment, looking like the Mummy. And I said, hey, pal, you got to listen to this. And I put the headphones on him and played it. He really didn't remember when it was cut, although we kind of figured it must have been at Bradley's barn before he was on RCA. And he just kind of shut his eyes and said, Jimmy, that's how I thought it was going to be. You just round up some pickers and play.
Yeah.
And that was just like a knife in my heart, because it was like all this potential and the world doesn't know it. And so right then and there, it was like my mission to at least try to get this stuff out in the world and have people know about it.
Do you know where that tape is today?
Funnily enough, I think it's lost. No one can find it, but a transfer was done, and it is coming out on this album of unreleased stuff from Delmore Recordings in the next month. And so finally, people can have in their hands. Now, I must footnote this with Tommy Schwartz, who's like Gary's, he was a very close friend of Gary's and his primary archivist. He does not care for this version. He likes the country take of the song, sure. And I think he thinks it's nuts we're putting it out. So everybody's got an opinion, right? And his is certainly valid. But for me, it just is the centerpiece track. Maybe for the whole book. That's the way I feel about it. Now the world can enjoy it.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, and that's gonna have some extra charge for me, when I finally lay ears on it.
Cool.
Some of this stuff you talked about wanting to just devour it all, and I have a very similar personality in that way. And some of the things when you come across when you're trying to, devour it all are box sets that have good track sheets and personnel. To have someone's, back to my main plot thing, is like just have these records. They don't always mention who's playing on them. They got a track list. They of course tell you who the songwriter is. They tell you who's making the money. But the players, that's the people I care about. I turn over record sleeves like they're baseball cards, and I want to see who's playing, and I'll buy a record that I don't know the artist because I know the producer, or I know some of the players on it, or I know some of the songwriters. And just in the Al Green book, particularly if we can just turn pages.
Oh yeah.
A quick one, but like. Man, I love Willie Mitchell. I love his work with Syl Johnson. All that high record stuff is phenomenal. And then Al Green, is just, he's the icing on the cake of that whole thing. And
Oh yeah.
him and Willie working together is just unbeatable. And you know about these guys, you know about the Hodges brothers, you know that Al Jackson played on some, and you know that Howard Grimes played on some, and all this, and but it's really that chapter you do on Willie and High Records. I mean, again, just I was like a revelation to me that finally someone had put it all in one place.
Well, Grady, that means a lot to me because the editor was adamant that that chapter should come out of the book. And the subtitle, yeah, thumbs down is right. The subtitle on the book was originally "And the History of High Records." And they're like, no, got to just center on the star. And, I'm used to all that. But no way was that. And I do this in a lot of my books. The Tammy book, there's a whole thing on the session players. And in the Gary book, there's a whole thing on Roy Day and the people who played on Gary's records. To me, they're as important as Gary. I mean, they're part of the whole secret sauce of what makes this music great. And and the world should know about them. And yeah, I mean, High Records, man. It's just, it's so fascinating, the dips and turns that label went through, and then finally landed on Al. So yeah, I get very bullish on what should be in my books, and thankfully I've always gotten my way.
Well, again, yeah, that doesn't. I'm glad it's not an appendix. I'm glad it's not a footnote. I'm glad it doesn't get cut entirely, because that's the kind of stuff. It's a big part of Al's story, and
Yeah.
Al has done some great stuff on both sides of his career with Willie, but
Oh yeah.
that stuff he did with Willie will forever be his legacy. And
Oh yeah.
and then just to read about Willie's sensibilities, hiring those country backing vocalists to make that sound. And I'm a drummer, Jimmy. I have a whole closet full of snare drums that I tried to tune to make sound like those High Records recordings. And your book, when it says, "Oh, it's Al Jackson playing a high tuned snare," and Howard Grimes sitting next to him whacking a conga, I was like, "There's hours of my life gone." and showing up on gigs of people going, "What's the deal with that snare drum tuning? Like, don't you? It's kind of getting there. Sounds like a tom with." So I mean that kind of had I read this, a decade ago, I could have saved a lot of time. But
that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
So yeah, please, please keep it going with that stuff. I know, you're like a star out there, man. And I think you're really shining a light on Gary, and I really think it's beautiful and well deserved. I see the quote. I came in with Gary. I'm going out with Gary. Are you done with this kind of writing for real?
Well, I'm done with this kind of biography. I just, publishers don't want my kind of books. They don't envision a Broadway musical. Now, I tend to disagree, but it's just gotten harder and harder to do these books and to do them my way. No one wanted the Gary Stewart book, literally no one. So there's that, and plus, I just don't think I can improve on the way I do these books after this one. I don't know who I'd write about, but having said all that, I still want to do the autobiography of Jack Nitzsche. We were pals. He put his life on tape for me. I feel an obligation to do that.
Yeah.
And then there are different shorter things about guys that I researched or gals that never saw light of day. So I'd like to do that. It's just such an uphill battle getting these things out in the world. I'll figure out. I have things left. It's just not necessarily. And I could change my mind tomorrow, Grady. I could say, "Oh yeah, man, you know,
Well, as close.
I got to do that 12 volume biography on J.J. Cale, which I could certainly talk myself into.
Please.
He's somebody I've researched deeply. I want to see that published.
Need it.
So, who knows what the future will bring, but I just don't know about this kind of biography again. And this one really, this this pushed me to beyond my limit, and I'm sure that's part of why it's good. But yeah,
and I get that. I mean, this is a friend of yours, and this story ends in a tragic way.
Yeah,
and I can understand your feelings of going, hey, this had to be a tough one to even, there's a further processing of losing your friend and his wife in a very short span of time, and probably something maybe didn't want to think back on, and just weren't real eager to dive back into.
Yeah.
But you did, man, and like I said, it's a beautiful thing, and we're all thankful that you did. It's but I can definitely understand saying I can't do this again.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of stories like this one, dude. Really.
Yeah, that's for sure true. Oh, brother.
I know there's got to be people thinking biopic and all this, but I hope it doesn't. I hope this is the lasting thing for Gary. Biopics are never as good as their source.
Yeah, right.
It's never as good. I mean, the movie's never as good as the book.
Oh yeah.
I watch them, but
yeah,
I'm always disappointed.
Yeah, I've had some experiences. Both the Tammy book and the Russ Meyer book were optioned, and what can I tell you? It is surreal events that had when you boil down to it, it really didn't seem the content didn't seem to have much to do with the book. Thankfully, they weren't made. So yeah, I have strong feelings about all
that. I mean, someone try to do a George and Tammy like miniseries recently?
Yeah, they did. That's based on Georgette's book. I watched. I couldn't watch it. It wasn't for me. I'll leave it at that. And that's one of the greatest stories of all time. You really don't want to muck that one up, but. It's just so different today. Culture is just so immediate, and they want to crank out a 5-part series in 2 months, and now they'll cover all the holes with AI. I mean, I don't want to sound like Uncle Grumpy sitting on the porch feeding the pigeons, but I spent a long time trying to get this just so. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now. Having said that, there are things right now a few things I'd like to change. There's a flub or two in there that pain me, but tender loving care doesn't seem to be the order of the day with a lot of this stuff, and it makes me feel like a shoe cobbler on his way out. So that's it. I mean, that's the way of the world. You can't control these things. I just have my way of doing things, and I doubt they'll ever change.
I did also consume the audiobook. That was awesome.
Well,
and I love that. I like listening to your voice. You slip into Gary character. I love the story of turn around to go run around the graveyard, and you're like, hey buddy, just every time you kind of slip into Gary, I felt like I'm in the van with him all of a sudden. And I know you helped with you did some work on Fogarty's memoir.
Yeah. That was his book. You'll see I don't list it as one of my books. That was, if it had been my book, it would have been an entirely different matter. And unfortunately, I signed an NDA. And as much as I'd love to talk about that one, because it's fascinating, I'll tell you, though, it's John's book, 1,000%. Every word, every sentence, I was just there to get it out of him, and I did. And that's how he wanted to present it. And I did my best.
Well, good for him, man. And you did whatever you did is great, because that book is great. John getting to, John loves him some John. So he can, that whole thing is just going, buddy, you ever think about, reading a contract before you sign it? Or, it's like every turn he takes, he's like, man, this person screwed me over. And it's like, man, this just keeps happening to you. And I love him. I love his music, but at some point you got to go, dude,
Yeah. Well, all I can tell you is there were times I didn't think that book would ever be completed, but we worked it out, and I'm just glad there's a record that he approves of. That was his deal. That's a very different animal than my books.
Yeah.
Would I do it again? Probably not, unless it were the very right person. But it was, I got to hang out and listen to one of the great creators, tell his side of the tale. So very rewarding for me.
It being all his words is great, because I was going to ask what your involvement was, but sometimes I'll read one, or I'll listen to the audiobook of the person whose memoir it is, and then there's some flowery writer words in there that the person doesn't know how to pronounce. I'm going,
Yeah.
Who wrote that, huh?
Yeah, and from experience, I know that's what it's like a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, like with Al Green's book, for instance, the writer admitted to me that, he cobbled a lot of it from press interviews. Al didn't want to do the interviews. A lot of it was just an AI approximation of what Al might have said, put it that way. I mean, that's my take on it. And I was determined with Mr. Fogarty's book that it was going to come direct from his mouth. And it in the end, it certainly did. It's all his, he went over the thing many, 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 many times, and it was to his satisfaction. So I was just helpful to be there and to collate his thoughts. That's really all I did.
Good. Well, it turned out great, and like I said, I love him. I think I'm glad it got done by hook or crook.
That
he gets to have his version of the story out there. So did you ever meet Al Green?
No, I didn't.
He wanted nothing to do with you, right?
He was incognito. I tried many times. Eventually I got a P.O. box. I wrote him. He changed the P.O. box. I haunted his church more than I'm certain more than he knew before the book came out. But he just wasn't interested, And I've never seen him comment about the book, which, I'm fascinated. That book really got to me. There were many times I wanted to give it back. It was just there was one perception of Al in public, and then there was what the people who had been around him and the events of his life were, and it was completely different than the PR presentation. Sometimes with these people, it just myths develop a life of their own, and they just get accepted. And hey, more power to the person writing on it. But I found out I was really into what turned the corner on that book was meeting those guys you talk about, like the Hodges brothers, or who's the guy who played on Bell that I love so much? It'll come to me. Anyway, I love these guys so much, and they had a lot to say, and they had really been through it with the Rev. And I just felt, if I don't do this, these guys will be gone and the story will never be told. And I just felt sort of like when I did the Russ Meyer book, all the women interested me much more than Mr. Meyer, and the book became about that. And yet, I think had I become entranced by the spell of Al, maybe it would have been a lesser book. Sometimes it's to your benefit that you try harder when you can't get to the actual person. Or in this case, I fully believe the actual person wouldn't really be giving you much in the way of accurate information. It's not in their nature. He's an ethereal being who lives in another dimension, let's face it, at best. So, would I have loved to have that experience? Yeah. How valuable would it be? I mean, I'm just acting on a hunch here, but I don't know if it would have been worthy of the book material. So yeah.
Everybody knows that one story about Al, this one big event, but I don't think I've never heard anyone tell me that story and then also mention in the how the story ends that the woman in question is murdered or by depending on whose account you believe. And I thought you did a great job of really telling that story, because it's a very tragic, very sad story. And, again, with no judgment or no speculation, I think you just said, hey man, here are the facts, and you can kind of piece it together how you want. I don't know. I try not to overstep any lines here, just as you did, but
Yeah. I mean, for the record, it was considered a suicide, and she used Al's gun that was there in the house, and probably will never know what really happened. The only living witness that I know of is a bit of an unreliable narrator. So it remains one of these very unsettling mysteries. I did my best, I got the FBI files on the whole thing, which had never been unearthed.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely have Al after and Al before and Al after, and it's one of those deals,
Yeah, obviously, just a life-altering event for everyone involved.
Yeah,
and heavy stuff.
What a guy, though. I mean, what a singer. I mean,
Yeah, there's no.
I'll go on YouTube and watch that midnight special with the Enterprise Orchestra, which is kind of his version of Crazy Horse. And I don't know, he's one of these guys as a live performer. When he cared, you couldn't top him. He was just just otherworldly, to say the least.
Yeah, I love your take on that, getting up to Bell, because I don't, I think Willie Mitchell's a genius, and you want to go, Al, don't do this thing, and there's just something in your mind that's going to go, we're working up to this. I've seen that record. I've don't know, recognize any of the names on it, and I'm like, what is this? You know? And then you throw it on and it's like, this is great. This is brilliant. This is,
Oh man, yeah.
unfiltered Al.
Yeah. And that's really as outer space as it gets. And you only wish he had done more of that. There's great stuff in the gospel eras and the later pop eras to a degree, but he never got as out there as that Bell album. And as amazing as a genius of his craft, you don't get the feeling that Al was the most disciplined fellow. Sorry if I just my opinion, but it just would have been great to have more of that stuff. But at least it exists, and no one else but Al Green could make a record like Bell. I mean, it's just by itself.
It speaks for itself for sure. And who knows, if you continue to let the leash out, does it get wilder? Does it get better? Does it get worse? We don't know. We can only speculate.
Yeah, right.
Are you still a physical media collector? You still collect records and tapes and things like that?
Well, this will be a bit of heresy, but no, I keep all my music on my phone. I mean, I admire it all, but I spent so much time doing it in my life, tracking all this stuff down. I would much rather focus now on creating what I have left than go on. And, maybe that's just me becoming an old geezer. I don't know. I like the idea, of course, the artifact, an album, big picture, all that.
Yeah.
I love the feel of it. I love the sound of vinyl, all that.
Yeah.
But I have a vast archive in my home. And I'm at the point worrying of like, what am I gonna, I don't want to burden my paramour with all this, esoteric crap I've collected my whole life. What am I gonna do with it? I'm sure there's some place I can deposit it. But I am hyper aware of not creating more stuff. I mean, I was against Kindle, like a preacher talking about rock and roll. I now read on them because I don't want any more. My basement has so many books, and now I've gotten rid of them all. There's still I just can't bear the burden of the obsession. I admire everybody who does. I'm glad they do it. But unfortunately, I am a man of convenience these days, Grady.
That's all right. That's all right. How does your creation and your art like fit into that? I mean, have you thought, again, the audiobook thing is great. You reading it is great.
Yeah.
Stacking that up against the audiobook of Soul Survivor or
never listened to it.
Or you ain't missing.
I was so pissed off they wouldn't let me read my own books because I knew I could do it the best. Yeah. Just because my writing is sort of a weird thing, and I knew I could deliver it. I listened to a sentence of one of them, either the Tammy or the Al, and I just couldn't do it.
No.
And no offense to those who did it. I'm sure they did a great job for the way they do it. But, it's book number 47 to them. And this is like a life or death thing for me. And I have to compliment the publisher here, Chris Campion, who took on this crazy Gary Stewart book and said, yeah, we'll do an audio book and you'll read it. I'd always wanted to do one. And I'm so happy that it exists. And yeah.
Is there, if with these, you mentioned the unfinished projects you have or things like that, skipping the publisher and publishing them on Substack, or doing it, kind of self-publishing or doing things like that, or having supporters? Does that interest you at all?
I don't know. That's the digital end of it that sort of gives me the heebie-jeebies. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're going to be active in this world, you got to do all this Instagram and post. And I tried to make it at least amusing and entertaining, but it sort of overtakes your whole being. And perversely, now that I've told you, I don't collect any social media. I don't collect any physical media. I
Yeah.
love creating it. And
Right.
I would like to see like all my stories in particular, all my stories for the Village Voice and my stories for the By NWR website. I'd like to see them in a book with stuff that I haven't, I've had encounters with Brian Ferry, Jerry Lee Lewis that never saw light of day. Uh, there's a few other people. I want to do a long thing about Rusty Kershaw, for instance. I
Yeah.
like them all in a book.
Yeah.
Now that's a hard sell, I'm told.
Not to
But
me.
yeah,
I'll buy
well,
one.
yeah. Thank you, Grady. I'm glad to hear it. But I don't want. I want it to be complete if I do it. So would I do another indie publishing deal, or would I maybe do it myself? Yeah. If it doesn't totally consume every ounce of my being, so I can also do the other things I have. I'm figuring all this out, Grady. Hopefully,
Yeah.
it'll all get out there. It would give me some peace of mind, certainly.
Well, here's hoping, man, because I don't know. Just when reading your stuff, I get it that you love music as much as I do. It's surprising to me that you've never been in a band, because you obviously really feel it and you really get into it. And I see some instruments behind you. You do play?
No. That's my wife, Natalia. She's a music fiend. Back there somewhere is a Maton guitar. It's a copy of a Dan Electro. With the two prongs.
Oh yeah.
Is it here? Let me see.
See like a Fender headstock back there and a drum set. See the Maton.
Yeah, I don't think the Maton's out. It's signed on the back by Link Ray, so that's cherished.
Oh man,
time in this house, who was obviously very important to both of us.
Oh,
she says I can't even carry a tune. So I would have loved to have been a singer along the line, a country ballad singer like George Jones or Texas Frankie Miller, but guess it wasn't in the cards, Grady. Too bad.
Oh man. Well, dude, I mean, really, as a music lover, I appreciate what you do. I recognize what you do, and I thank you so much for all the beautiful books you've given us so far. I encourage you to keep moving with it, and in any way that you can that doesn't consume you.
Sounds good, Grady. I do it for dudes like you, so thank you.
I'm here for it, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I'd love to, keep up the conversation anytime you're ready and willing.
Sounds cool.
Okay, man.
All right. Thanks, man.
Again.
I really enjoyed this. I really appreciate you. You obviously you give a shit. It means a lot. So
Man,
thank you.
I absolutely do. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right.
Thanks.
See you, pal.
Bye-bye.